right, so Nick, we got to coat this trim, and we've definitely got the water out of it.
Yep.
But how much do I put on? What do I do? Do I let it sit? Do I wipe it off? Let's go over some of the stuff that you would do if we're going to put on Uno here to this porch trim.
Yeah, well, first of all, we have the camera really zoomed in. We're not going to be in on this video, right? You're not going to see our faces, but the important thing is we think there's a lot of things that people misunderstand about trim. Number one, you're going to load up your applicator. Okay, this is an applicator we've already used on the car. I'm going to go ahead and load up quite a bit of product. And I would say this is the mistake most people make, not enough product. The next mistake, as we start to spread this in, notice I'm doing it slowly and methodically. You'll see that the trim starts to darken up. Okay, I want to do the first two levels here, and I'm just going to go to this cutoff point here. I guess we can just do all three levels. Make it real simple. Okay. We're going to get the front edge. Okay. Then we're going to try to get some into these areas that have kind of whited themselves out. Improper chemicals, something was used on this car. I want everybody to understand though, I'm not in a hurry. We're going to go ahead and get these bars. I'm not in a hurry to wipe this off. And matter of fact, most of the time on Porsche trim, Chevy trim, Ford trim, I don't care whose it is, Ferrari trim that we run into at my shop. Hopefully it's picking it up on camera here, Marty, but you can see that this is uncoated and that's coated. I haven't wiped anything. I haven't attempted to wipe anything. And there's a good chance I'm not going to wipe anything.
Well, why aren't you going to wipe it, right? We just leveled on paint, but now you're saying we're not going to level, we're not going to wipe, we're not going to do anything.
It's a different surface. This is a much more porous surface than paint. And so actually what we want to have happen here is we want this to soak in. The more it soaks in, the more protection it's going to leave behind. You're not going to see those solvent outgassings that you see on paint, right? You're not going to see that here. You're not going to see the beading, the sweating. The product is literally being soaked into the trim, okay? The problem when you go and you get in a rush to wipe is you start to wipe away the protection, okay? You're not actually wiping away solvent because remember, the solvent's just kind of slowly coming out, okay? It's almost evaporating. The trim is kind of taking care of that, and it's almost self-leveling. This is one of the things I promise you will have the best trim ever if you stop wiping the hell out of the trim while you're coating it. Like this is something I see all over the internet. I see at shops that we visit where people just can't wait. And actually what people will see me doing is I'd rather continue to add product to it. So if I see an area that's kind of not accepting the product or it's starting to look a little different than the rest of it, I'm going to go back with my applicator. I'm going to start adding more and more and more. There will be times where trim's in really bad shape. Ford is, especially the Raptors, are really bad around the door trim. Sometimes you need to excessively soak that because it actually comes kind of damaged from the factory. We do a lot of Raptors at my shop and in my business, and I tell people Ford has a real trim problem. But here, I would kind of just touch this little area up, add more product to it. I am not in any way trying to remove anything, okay? Now, Marty, I've said this for years on the podcast, and you're now getting to see it in person. Why would I level this trim?
It's a great question. I think a lot of people just think you're supposed to, which is why I said, hey, we leveled on paint, we leveled on, right? You would level on glass.
So
then it comes here, most people are just going to go, great, I'm just going to continue that process.
So let me give you what my process would be on this car. If I was coating the whole car, which we already are going to do and have done most of the car. If I was going to do this car, at the very end, I'd do all the trim as one section of the car, right? So all the trim would get done at one time. Number one, your applicator will start getting, some marks on it and start picking up some stuff. So I want to leave it for the end for the trim. You can also flip it over to a new side, whatever it is you want to do. But I leave it to the end because what I'll do is I'll start on one side of the car, I'll go all the way around the car, I haven't leveled any of it. And then I'll come back and I'll revisit it and go, do I need to level? Here, okay, maybe a slight wipe here, maybe a touch-up wipe there, maybe I'll add some more here. I'm very rarely ever wiping trim, and here's the perfect example where trim acts unevenly. Look at that trim there. That needs more product. That doesn't need a leveling of product. It needs more product. You have a neglected vehicle, okay? So I'll just go through and re-add more product. I know people think that I'm gonna find a trim coating of some sort, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just put it on, it's gonna be perfect. That's just all for the video. Sometimes this neglected trim, this has been burnt by a chemical. You can see the graying here in person.
Yeah, and probably oxidation has already set in. You've got a lot of stuff that's already started.
Now, brand new Porsche trim from the factory, I would just wipe this on and I'd be done. But we're almost into a restoration situation here because it's been burnt by chemical, it's oxidized, this hasn't been cared for. But you can still see how grade uno with just no effort. This isn't even our most robust coating. We are working on a trim coating that is more designed to soak in even more and maybe add a little bit of extra protection to trim. But our coatings work so damn well on trim that, look at this. I mean, this is a headache-free process. So you see why I would coat the whole trim, then come back and make an assessment. I think when you look at this though, Marty, pretty damn good finish.
Absolutely. Well, we better get the rest of it because the customer will definitely notice.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem at all. Let's go ahead. And hopefully you guys can pick up all this stuff on camera, right? But number one, look at how much product I'm putting on. Because why? I've already identified I have a damaged coat, I have a damaged piece of plastic here. So now I'm actually gonna, look at that. Look at how much product, okay, that I'm putting on here. It's not a waste, okay? This is gonna soak in. And remember, this is damaged trim. This is not healthy trim. This is not new out of the factory, really great trim. This is a situation where I have to identify somebody's burnt it with a chemical, it's oxidized as you said. So guess what, man? Add a bunch of product in here and let it soak in. And you know what you avoid? Trim dyes. I don't want to re-dye this trim, do you? That's a pain in the ass. It's messy. I don't want to do any of that. Right? So look what people will see me doing. I'm going to go ahead because I have a little excess product and I'm just going to keep adding product to this. Again, this will not happen on brand new Porsche trim. This will happen if somebody's burnt it with a chemical and you have a situation like we have here, but I am doing nothing but adding product.
So another car wash has crept up,
well,
Some more damage that we...
It also could be a detailer. It also could be, think of all the caustic bug cleaners that we see guys use, right? We are quick to really point out that this is probably a car wash situation, but if you're a detailer using really caustic bug cleaner on this type of plastic, that's exactly what it's gonna look like. So we can't identify whether it's been a car wash or not. At this point in time, I've done no leveling, I've done no wiping. All I've done is add into the system. If I can avoid trim dye, because understand something about trim dye. Trim dye forever alters the relationship you have with the plastic. Now you're gonna have to keep adding dye, adding dye, adding dye. This may be enough to renew your plastic, right? There's nothing better than doing new plastic because it's easy, but here we are. We got damaged plastic. I haven't leveled a thing. None of this will get leveled. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.